Hi everybody, welcome to our pronunciation video series. My name is Professor Feng, and today will be our first video, our lesson 1 video. So let's talk a little bit about what we will learn today. Today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about communication problems. So as we work on pronunciation, one of the most important things we can do is think about what causes problems. How can we communicate clearly? So we will also talk about some solutions when we do have communication problems. Especially, I have 2 ways you can make your communication, your speaking, more clear. And those 2 ways are going to be using different words and using thought groups. So I'll show you how to do both of those things so that you can speak more clearly. Finally, we'll finish with 2 ways that you can practice. 2 things that you can do to practice these things so that your speaking can be more and more clear. So let's start. I'm going to introduce myself to you, and I'm going to give you some information about me in a few different ways. I actually want to show you some problems that people often have when they are speaking. So I'm going to tell you about myself, listen and see if you know what is the problem. Okay? So listen to me and see if you can figure out what the problem is with my speaking right now. Hello, I'm your instructor, Professor Feng. I teach ESL classes at Palomar College, including writing, grammar, and pronunciation classes. I especially love teaching pronunciation classes and listening to different pronunciations of English. Almost everyone in my family speaks with different pronunciations of English, so I find different accents and different pronunciations very interesting. I'm happy to be your teacher this semester and work with you in your pronunciation. Okay, so that was not clear speaking. Do you know what the problem was? You can go ahead and say it. Hopefully you said I was too fast. Okay, now that might seem an obvious problem, but actually many people don't realize they are speaking too fast. So before we can fix the pronunciation of a word or the pronunciation of a sound, you have to make sure you are not speaking too fast, too quickly, because that will affect everything that you say. Okay, I'm going to now show you another different problem that many people have when they are speaking. I'm going to say the same thing that I said again, but this time I'm going to say it with a different problem. Listen carefully and see if you know what the problem is. Okay, here I go. Hello, I'm your instructor, Professor Feng, and I teach ESL classes at Palomar College, including writing, grammar, and pronunciation classes. I especially love teaching pronunciation classes and listening to different pronunciations of English. Almost everyone in my family speaks with different pronunciations of English, so I find different accents and different pronunciations very interesting. I'm happy to be your teacher this semester and work with you on your pronunciation. Okay, so that was also not clear pronunciation. What was the problem with that speaking? Do you know? Yes, you're right. Sometimes I was too quiet. Now that is a very normal problem. Often when we are speaking in a second language, we are nervous. We don't feel comfortable, especially on long, difficult words. Sometimes our voice will get quieter and we will sort of pronounce them a little bit softly. But the problem with that is that even if your pronunciation is beautiful, no one will know if it's too quiet. So one other thing we want to make sure of before we start working on pronouncing each word in certain ways is we want to make sure that we are not too quiet when we are speaking. So the first one was too fast. The second one was too quiet in parts. Why don't you go ahead and listen to me do it one more time and see what you think this time. Okay, let's do it one more time. Hello, I'm your instructor, Professor Feng. I teach ESL classes at Palomar College, including writing, grammar, and pronunciation classes. I especially love teaching pronunciation classes and listening to different pronunciations of English. Almost everyone in my family speaks with different pronunciations of English, so I find different accents and different pronunciations very interesting. I'm happy to be your teacher this semester and work with you on your pronunciation. Okay, so what did you think of that one? So that one was hopefully the clear one. Hopefully it was easy to understand. Hopefully you felt comfortable listening to it. That is what we want for our pronunciation. We want people to be happy to listen to us and to feel comfortable listening to us. So the first two things, the two problems that we really have to make sure we don't have is when we see our speaking, that our speaking is too quiet or too fast. Okay, so those are the first two big problems that we want to make sure that we don't have. And then we can start doing things to make our speaking even more clear. So now, one other thing is that while we are thinking about ourselves and our own problems, we're speaking too fast, or maybe we're speaking too quietly. We have to remember too that communication involves two people. So you are the person speaking, and you have the responsibility to speak slowly, clearly, and to do many, many, many things that I will help you with. But also there's a person listening to you. And sometimes when we have communication problems, the problem is not that you are too fast, or the problem is not that you are too quiet. Sometimes the problem is the person listening is not listening carefully. And many, many reasons for that will happen. You probably know this in your native language too. You might be speaking and somebody doesn't understand for many reasons. Can you think of some reasons why a listener wouldn't understand? Now, when I ask you questions, you are always welcome to pause the video and try to speak to me. And then, you can play again and we can keep going. So I asked you a question. Why do you think sometimes people don't understand? What is the problem with the listener? Why would the listener not be listening carefully? Okay, so sometimes, there's many, many reasons, but sometimes your listener is just not listening. Maybe they're thinking about something else. Maybe they're tired, or maybe they're having trouble hearing. So when we are communicating, we have to be careful that we are not speaking too quickly or too quietly, but we also have to remember that sometimes the listener is also not listening, so we really have to work together to have clear communication and to work together and understand each other. A lot of times in this class, we are thinking about ourselves. How can we change our pronunciation? How can we speak more clearly? How can people understand us? But it's important for us to remember too that sometimes they are going to try a little harder to listen as well. Sometimes we need to work with them or repeat it, not because we didn't say it correctly, but maybe because they weren't listening the first time. That's a normal part of communication. Okay, so now we've thought about some of the issues that come up, maybe too fast or too quiet, or maybe the person's not listening. Now I want to give you two strategies, two ways to help you make your speaking more clear. Now, these are not really pronunciation ways, but these are ways that will help you speak more clearly and help people to understand you. They're very, very important ways that people use all the time in their native languages and that you want to learn and to use in English as well, so that you can make sure everybody understands what you're saying. So the first one that we're going to work on is on using different words. I have a story to show this to you, how important this is. When my mother immigrated to the United States with our family, she went into a McDonald's and she needed to get some water. And she said to the cashier, "Can I have some water, please?" And the person said, "What?" So she said, "Water, water, water, please." So they said, "What?" So there she was going, "Water, water, water," and it was not helping her. Eventually she said, "I'm thirsty, can I have a cup with a drink?" And they said, "Oh, water." And she said, "Yes, water." Okay, so this shows the problem when sometimes if our word is not understood, we don't want to just say it again and again and again and again. Like if you go to your teacher and you say, "I'm sick," and your teacher says, "What?" Well, you don't want to keep saying, "I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick," because they didn't catch that the first time. So what you want to do is use different words. So let's practice this a little bit and see how we can do. Okay, let's look at a sentence that I have here. This sentence actually is the one that I just said for you, and it's the sentence that says, "I am sick." Okay, I made the word sick black and bold because that is the word that I want you to try to use different words to say. Okay, so I'm going to point at the words, and what I want you to do is speak them and then try to explain more using different words. Let me show you. So I would go, I am sick, I'm not healthy, I have a sore throat, I have a cough, I can't come to class today. I need to go to the doctor. All of those are different ways of explaining this first word, I am sick. Okay, so I want you to try. I'm going to point at the word, I want you to speak it, and then I want you to explain it more using different words. You can pause the video and say it, and then when you've said it, you can go ahead and play again, okay? So let's do it together. I'll speak the sentence with you. I am sick. Okay, did you pause the video and say some more? There's many things you could say. I'm not healthy, I'm not feeling well, I am ill, I need to go to the doctor, I need medicine. Many options. Hopefully you thought of some words. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do another sentence. I'll read the sentence with you. Then I want you to pause your video and try to say more words, explaining it, saying more. Now you're explaining, in this case, the word late. Try to use different words to make it very clear that you're going to be late. Okay, let's do it together. I am going to be late. Okay, did you use some different words? What are some different words you can use to explain late? You could say, maybe I'm not on time. I woke up late. That still uses the word late. You could use, I'm not early. You could even use the time. I'm going to be 5 minutes after the start of class. Something like that. All of those are different options. You want your language to be able to have many options and many different ways to say things so that people can understand you easily. Okay, let's do one more. Let's read it together. I lost my book. Okay, did you pause your video? What are some other ways you can say the word lost? How else can you say, I lost my book? Yeah, things like, I can't find my book, I don't know where it is, I don't know what to do because I don't have my book, I left my book at home, my book is missing. Many ways. Languages have many ways to say things, and the more ways you say it, the better, because then if a speaker misses, a listener misses one word that you are speaking, it's no problem, because you said it a different way as well. Okay, so this is one really good way that you can make sure that your communication is clear. Now, the second way that you can make sure that your communication is clear is using something called thought groups. I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. So thought groups also help with clear communication. Let me show you. I have a short paragraph I'm going to read. I'm going to read it two ways, and it will be different. I want you to listen and decide, do you like number one or do you like number two, and why? Okay, so listen and think, number one or number two, and why? Okay, here's number one. Today is the day we learn about thought groups. Many people don't think about them, but they can make your speech a lot easier to understand if you use them correctly. Public speakers use many thought groups because they need everyone to understand what they're saying. We can do the same thing. Okay, that was number one. Now number two. Today is the day we learn about thought groups. Many people don't think about them, but they can make your speech a lot easier to understand if you use them correctly. Public speakers use many thought groups because they need everyone to understand what they're saying. We can do the same thing. Okay, did you like number one or number two? Hopefully you said number two, because number two is the one where I used thought groups. So what was the difference? What was different between number one and number two? Why did you like number two? Hopefully you liked number two because you heard more pauses. Sometimes people will say, oh, number one was too fast. But actually I was trying to read slowly, I just wasn't really pausing. And pausing is actually very important to help people understand you. Let's try just one sentence of it and talk about it together. So, for example, the first sentence I said was, today is the day we learn about thought groups. Okay, let's look at that together. I mean to put it up here for you to take a look at. Okay, today is the day we learn about thought groups. Now, I can read the whole thing all the way through without a pause. Today is the day we learn about thought groups, and that's fine. But if you're speaking on the phone or if somebody doesn't understand you, adding pauses, adding groups of words will help them understand in a big way. So, very, very important. Let's put at least one thought group here. Where would you want to pause? Take a look at it and see where you think would be the best place to pause. Maybe you thought after the word day. Today is the day we learn about thought groups. Okay, and that's kind of a nice pause there. We have a group of words, and then we have another group of words. We don't want to pause like after a preposition. We learn about thought groups. No, that wouldn't be a nice, smooth group of words. We also don't want to pause after a small verb, like today is, yeah, we don't want to pause there either. Today is the, no, that's not so great either. It's best after our noun there, after our groups of words. Today is the day we learn about thought groups. Okay, now you could actually add even more thought groups if you wanted to be even more clear. Like, today is the day we learn about thought groups. Okay, so maybe you say to me, that's too many thought groups. That feels a little bit too much. But you know what? Thought groups are decided by the speaker. Speaking is decided by you. You are the one speaking, and you decide how you sound. If I was speaking to my family very quickly, I'd probably go, today is the day we learn about thought groups. If I'm speaking maybe just with one student, maybe I would say, today is the day we learn about thought groups. But maybe if I'm on the phone, or if I'm on a video lesson and I'm talking to lots of people and I want everyone to understand me, then maybe I will add even more. Today is the day we learn about thought groups. These small pieces are much easier for a listener's brain to understand and to hear clearly. Okay, so you now have two ways to help your pronunciation be more clear. You can use thought groups and pauses as groups of words, and you can also use different words for the same thing. And those are both beautiful ways to make your speaking more clear and easy for your listener to listen to and easy for your listener to understand. So now what you want to do is practice that. And I do have a couple suggestions for you to practice this at home. The first one you can do, what I would recommend is use your phone to record yourself. Your phone is an amazing tool for any pronunciation student. What you want to do, every phone usually has a voice memo, or you can actually download an app that's a recorder, anything like that that you have on your phone, or you can even just video record yourself with your phone. That's fine too. So what I suggest is you make a little introduction of yourself, like I did at the beginning of my video. Remember? I said, I'm Tracy Fung, I'm a pronunciation teacher, all of that. Why don't you do that as well with your phone? Record yourself, listen to it, and check your thought groups, your volume, your speed. Make sure it's not too fast or too quiet. Make sure you have pauses in good places. Try to use different words for things, right? And then listen to yourself. Look at it, check it, record it again, and see if you can make it even better. And then add more pauses, go even a little slower, record again. Do it as many times as you want until you like the way it sounds. This is one way that we can work on our pronunciation. So another suggestion I have is try to find people that you can talk to. Ask them, can you listen to me speak just for 1 minute and tell me what you think of my speaking? And then speak for 1 minute. Maybe you can use the same information that you recorded on your phone. Just introduce yourself a little bit. And then say to them, was my speaking too fast? Was my speaking too quiet? Or was it difficult for you to understand? People love to give their opinions. And I would recommend doing this with maybe 4 different people, because that way different people might have a different opinion. Some people might say, oh, a little fast for me. Some people might say, oh, it was perfect for me. So it's a good idea to find different people. You can go to the tutoring center and speak with someone there. You can ask one of your teachers if they'll listen to you for a minute. You can ask a friend or a family member. And this is an opportunity to see, what do people think of my speaking, and how can I keep practicing with my speaking? Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you will do these practice exercises on your own, and that you'll be working on your pronunciation, listening to yourself, trying to use different words to say the same thing, trying to use good pauses to make your speaking very clear. And we will have another video next time to work on something more for our pronunciation, so that our pronunciation can get more and more clear, and so that people can enjoy listening to us. Thank you.